Hi, I'm Colleen Moran, and I'm here with Compassionate Sioux Falls. It's an initiative throughout the city that we try to encourage people to act with compassion. In addition to that, we recognize businesses, organizations, and individuals who show compassion on a daily basis. Joining me today is Becky Rasmussen, and welcome, Becky.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, and tell me what your position is and why we invited you as a compassionate organization.
Yeah, my name is Becky Rasmussen. I'm the Executive Director for Call to Freedom, and we're an organization that offers supportive services to those who have been victimized by human trafficking. And I believe I'm here today because you had a heart for the mission that we're doing, and I'm so grateful to be here.
And I'm so grateful to have you and for what you do, not only for the people and community members of Sioux Falls, but across the state. And it's much more far-reaching than that.
Yeah, for sure.
But tell us what human trafficking is about, the definition of it.
Human trafficking is either the use of force, fraud, or coercion, and that is either with labor trafficking or sex trafficking. And so that's defined very differently. A lot of people see movies like Taken and they think it's kidnapping, which is a force of human trafficking, but it's very different in South Dakota. It's more integrated into our communities. There's a lot of coercion that is used in human trafficking in Sioux Falls in the South Dakota area.
So when you talk about labor force or sexual human trafficking, which occurs most in South Dakota?
You know, statistic-wise, across the United States, labor trafficking is more prevalent. Mm-hmm. We have been working primarily with sex trafficking victims since our conception in 2016, but we've now been able to venture into labor trafficking and really start identifying that. And so with that being said, obviously since we're serving more sex trafficking, but that does not mean that it's more prevalent. It just means that we haven't done a job of identifying labor trafficking in the state of South Dakota.
And I think with human trafficking, and specifically the sex trafficking, Sioux Falls is at a juncture where maybe, I don't know if we're more prone to it, but maybe there's more opportunity.
Sure.
And kind of explain that.
Yeah, first of all, traffickers look for individuals who are vulnerable. So anytime there's vulnerability, and that comes with poverty, that comes with homelessness, that comes with addictions. So those type of vulnerabilities lend into human trafficking candidates that will pull in as victims. And then also we have the interstates, 2990, that run through South Dakota. And so anytime you have those major interstates, you have big events, you're going to North Dakota, Minnesota, those areas, you're going to have that called transit trafficking coming through communities. And so that's a little bit harder to identify because they don't stay a long time, and it's harder to be able to make a case in regards to that as well.
Sure. I was surprised. I did some research before I spoke to you and was surprised at the average age of the person that is trafficked. And tell us what that is.
Yeah. The average age of a human trafficking victim is 12 years old. And when I speak, I can usually find a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old in the crowd, and I have them stand up. And when people see that and they see that this is a child that is the average age of a human trafficking victim, I'll hear gasp. And people are just stunned that that's, the average age.
And there's also a story that I saw on your website about a woman who was younger than 12 when she became a victim of human trafficking, and basically spent her lifetime being trafficked. So tell us a little bit about her story.
Yeah, she was age 7 when she was groomed and recruited into trafficking off the reservations. And she was kind of groomed from the beginning because of the dynamic of her family. And so her family had some organized crime in her background. And so with that, her mom had lived a life of trafficking and prostitution herself. And so as a young child, she was being groomed for that. So at age 7, she was pulled into human trafficking rings, and she was trafficked until she was the age of 61. She was trafficked for over 50 years of her life. And with that being said, we work with different individuals that have been trafficked maybe 3 months to 2 years to individuals that have been trafficked all of their life. And so when we work with those dynamics, how we service and what we provide to them service-wise really depends on the amount of trauma that they've endured during their trafficking situation.
And what kind of services does your organization provide?
Yeah, We really are growing that because we want to be whatever they need. And so that takes a lot of resources. So we do a lot of collaboration within the community with different partners, from the medical community to the mental health community to addiction to housing, and being able to get them stable. The first thing when you work with a trafficking victim is to get them stable. They typically come to us with nothing on their back. No hygiene products, no clothes. Our community has been phenomenal, and so we really sit down and find out where have they been and what do they need, and then we help support them in that process and work with collaborations within the community.
I know you have something called Marissa's Project.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have a housing unit within the state of South Dakota that we house individuals that are coming out of trafficking situations, women. And so with that, we've housed up to 7 women in this project, and so we're looking at expanding that in the future, so more to come on that. But with that being said, what we really want to do is work on it's that next supportive living to the next step for them to transition to the community successfully. And what happens with a trafficking victim is they're re-victimized because they remain vulnerable. They typically don't have finances, they don't have family support, a lot of medical issues, addictions, and it just seems impossible to get out of those situations unless they have support. And so our housing project is really developed to be able to get them the skills that they need, but the support they need as well to transition back into community successfully.
And why is it called Marissa's Project?
Yeah. In 2015, I was in Sturgis, South Dakota, and we were doing outreach. And I made a connection with a young girl who was 17 years old. And through that connection, I found out that she was actually missing and could have been a potential human trafficking victim. She was found and then went missing again. And in that time, I realized and began to learn and ask the questions, how do you identify a victim and how do you lose them again? And they began to tell me about all the gaps in services within every state in the United States and third world countries. It's just not just South Dakota. It's internationally, it's in the States as well, that there aren't a lot of services. And so at that time, there was only 298 beds for women that were coming out of human trafficking situations. And on a global level, 3,287 individuals are pulled into human trafficking on a daily basis. And so you can do the math as far as the need is not being met to be able to provide them with the services they need to be successful.
And I will tell you that I'm not very good at math, but I can certainly determine that that need is not being met.
Yeah.
If people want to know more about your organization, how can they find out about it?
Yeah, great. Best way to go to our website, which is calltofreedom.org. If you want to get involved with the mission, there's ways that you can sign up to get involved. We also have events. We do monthly luncheons that people come attend to hear more about what we're doing and how they can be involved. And those are under our events page under calltofreedom.org.
And they can sign up for that? Is there a cost for it?
Nope, those are free luncheons, and we do them as informational luncheons to the community. And we have been honestly overwhelmed by this community and their support of the social injustice. And it's a heartbreaking issue.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, for sure. And we're just really grateful for the community support.
And we do have a wonderful community. Compassionate Sioux Falls wasn't developed to talk about that we don't have a compassionate community. We realize we do, but we want to keep that in the forefront of people's minds, that they continue to act compassionately. And you are certainly doing that, and we appreciate all that your organization does, especially for the women and children. And you know, it doesn't matter, I guess, if they're male or female, but just what you do for the most vulnerable.
We haven't even really addressed the male population. Those are a little bit harder to identify, and so we know that it is happening and it needs to be addressed in the future.
Oh, that is for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
If you would like to find out more information about Call to Freedom, you will be able to get that information on the screen. The same with Compassionate Sioux Falls. Thank you.